great. And thank you for all being here. And it's actually fun to see some old faces and new faces as well. Gosh, where to begin? I really enjoyed, I'm sorry I missed Saturday, and I actually really enjoyed the video that Ashlee put together and watched kind of most of it. And I think the thing that I reflect the most on as it relates to listening to everyone's individual stories is that, Valence and Yofafo has over the years delivered a very consistent, passionate message. And I think passionate messages really drive passionate actions. And everyone here actually on this Zoom have been a part of Yofafo in different capacities, some just volunteers, part of our advisory board, our board, taking trips. And that's really related to the passion that Valence has really brought to the table. A few things. My name is Byrne. I'm co-director with Yofafo USA, and super proud to be a part of an amazing organization. Rudy has been consummate, consistent, a great sense of leadership as president of Yofafo. And what we've seen over the last 5 years is an incredible sense of togetherness and organization, and forward movement. And sometimes I think that forward movement as an organization is not necessarily seen, but there have been so many strides in terms of just the actual organization itself and a sense of an accountability and really kind of running a sense of a business, which this in a way really is. My involvement honestly started with my wife, Deanna, who passed away 5 years ago. And during her 40th birthday, 16 years ago, she wanted to do something new and unique for herself, and actually kind of connected with a international relief organization that actually placed her with Valence in Lugazi. And she spent a month with Valence in the very infancy of Yofafo, and there was no electricity in their place and where they lived. And this is even pre-Doreen and family. But Deanna spent a month with Valence, and the passion that Valence has brought to the table, and everyone has experienced the warmth and the sense of just overall commitment to his vision, is what Deanna experienced for a month of being with Valence. And certainly Valence has touched many lives, some on the East Coast, some on the West Coast, as well as internationally. And Deanna came back with this just driving excitement about Yofafo, and really kind of created a sense of energy here. And then Valence started taking trips every other year to this area, as well as to the East Coast. We're super happy to have Tiffany Christian from Carolina and Appalachian State represent, but we've had a real good, great sense of East Coast, West Coast connection. The cool thing is in memory is that, actually Rudy over really several years had kind of thrown back and forth this idea of going to Uganda. And it was a really deliberate process over multiple years of him saying, I think I'm going to go. I'm not sure. Yes, but ultimately, July of 2015, Rudy and Jackie took the trip and came back, and with this sense of kind of excitement. And, that was a very formative time in my personal life, in that I was much more of a supportive kind of co-partner in life with Deanna, and really supported her interest in Yofafo, but didn't take a real active role. We had been once as a family of 4 to visit Valence and Doreen over Christmas holiday, but it was really much more Deanna's commitment. And after her passing, I really connected with Rudy, and remember really just talking about like what we're going to do, how we can help. And so that really kind of created a bond and a sense of direction for us. So we've grown a lot. We've got Ashlee, amazing, really helping lead us on the administrative front, the organizational front. We've just got a committed group of people from Steve Curry, Steve Adams on the Rotary side. We've got Appalachian State. There's really connected, committed people. I'm happy to be a part of this, and also turn this over to Ashlee. Of course, we've got Valence, and Jovia has been an amazing addition in terms of connecting a sense of accountability and leadership for and help for Valence as well too. So Ashlee, throw it over to you.
Thank you. It looks like we do have Valence joining today, so that is exciting. I'm going to go ahead and admit him into the room. But yeah, I feel super blessed to be a part of Yofafo. I started as the administrative coordinator in 2017, and I've never been around such motivated, passionate people than the advisory board for Yofafo. Really, it's like every month we sit down and we talk about how we can improve the lives of women and children in Uganda. And when I listen to all the wonderful advisory board members, I can just tell you that it is fully their true life passion and mission to help Yofafo prosper. So I just want to really give a big shout out to all of our sponsors and volunteers who are committed to being a part of this Yofafo family, because without you, the vision would not be possible and we wouldn't be able to be here today. So thank you for all the unwavering commitment that you all have to make this vision happen, because it really started, like Dr. Byrne said, with Valence and just, sorry, I'm admitting more people as I'm talking, but with Valence and Deanna Byrne in a candlelight room talking about how they can make this happen. So every time I hear Dr. Byrne's story, it kind of makes me want to do a little tear, but thank you for sharing, Dr. Byrne, and thank you for everyone who's being here. But today we have a really ambitious, amazing line of people to talk to. This is the cream of the crop of volunteers who have been boots on the ground. They've been to Uganda, they've built buildings, they've built solar power, they've installed widows' homes. They've done all that you could possibly think of for Yofafo. So I'm super excited to introduce you to all of them. If it's okay, I'll go ahead and just say hi, let everyone say hi, and then we'll go into a speaker series, starting with Valence. But if you could say hi first, that would be amazing.
Hi there.
Yeah, Jan is one of our volunteers.
With you.
Hi. Sorry?
Oh, look forward to sharing in a little bit.
Perfect. And then we also have Dr. Tiffany Christian. She is one of our original volunteers from App State.
Hello.
Yes. And then we also have Steve Curry. He is our advisory board member and is also a part of Rotary.
Hi, everybody.
And then we have Jackie Bachmann. She's a part of our advisory board as well.
Hello.
Then we have our president and chair, Rudy Bachmann.
Good evening, everybody.
And last but not least, we have Valence. He is the founder of Yofafo, which I know he doesn't really need an introduction. And then Jovia, are you here today? Because I'd love to introduce Jovia as well. She's boots on the ground in Uganda, also just amazing administrative assistant to the whole, she's just making it happen in Uganda. Without her, I'm telling you, we'd be lost without her. So I don't know if Jovia is here. I see her camera off, but I wanted to.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
Hi.
yeah. So Jovia is here too, joining us from Uganda. So exciting that we have technology and we can connect now. And it's more accessible to people who are joining us from all over the country and all over the world. So excited for everyone to be here. So without further ado, I'm excited to introduce our founder of Yofafo, Valence. I know he doesn't need an introduction, but in case you are new, I can give an overview of who Valence is. He was born in the village of Kutula and remains the only person from his village to graduate from a university. He promised that when he finished his degree in development, he would return to his community and ensure that he wasn't the first and the last person to receive a university degree. Through hard work and unwavering determination, Valence received a bachelor's degree in development studies from Mikiri University in Kampala, Uganda, and is now the founder and director of Yofafo. So without further ado, I'll kick it over to Valence.
I was born in the small village of Kitola. My parents died when I was
a little boy, about 9 years old. I remained with my mother, who was a caretaker, who later on died as well. I was sponsored through education with a missionary organization that was able to take me up to senior 6. Senior 6 is like high school. And I put myself through college, through hard work. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in development studies. At that point, inside my heart, I had a vision and a desire to go back to my village and to bring about lasting change. At that time, it was just a conviction of heart inside my heart to go back and just do something. In the real sense of it, it was a passion to bring about transformation in my village. And that conviction inside of me to go back to my village. And I thought about it. I didn't know what exactly it would bring about in terms of resources and means to make it, but inside me, I felt beyond any reasonable doubt that this was my calling in my heart to go back to my village. So I thought in many ways I would start with what I could do, and that was going back and trying to meet young people and the women, trying to use the available resources to see that we could be able to bring about lasting change. At that point in my village is surrounded with villages. For those of you who have been in Kitola know that we are surrounded by sugarcane plantations. So most of the people in my village live on, say, $2 a day. They work in the cane plantations, work on very small, tiny bits of money. And there's no real role models to inspire the children. When I was growing up, what I would see would be to end up maybe driving a tractor. A tractor would be the highest rank in terms of achievement. I thought, okay, most of the kids in my village, what they knew at that point as the biggest accomplishment would be to turn 18 or 20 and jump on a tractor or lorry to drive sugar canes to the factory. And that was the biggest inspiration. So, and yet these children have a lot of potential inside of them, a lot of potential that if it is only tapped, they could go places. Even in my own life, I didn't know that I had potential in me, maybe to graduate, like in my P7, that is like primary. I got a first grade. And, I didn't realize that maybe inside me, I had that potential. I got a first grade. I passed well in my O levels. I passed well in high school to go to university. I passed very well. So even these kids, because the surrounding itself doesn't tell them that there's more inside them than what is around them, that bothered me a lot because I was looking at my own life. I was born in this village. I was able to get a first grade, like an A, to go to secondary. And then I passed in my O levels and high school to finally go to university and pursue a bachelor's degree in development studies. So that brought a lot of thoughts in me that there is something, and probably if we don't address the challenges in our communities, who will address them? So I realized at that point that the most important thing that would unlock every kid's potential would be education. So at that point, we thought of starting an empowerment center. Starting this empowerment center, truly, when I look back 15 years ago, I'm just amazed by what we've been able to accomplish. And when we started the empowerment center, we are focusing on the women, and the children were not going to school. So we thought we needed to start a school. So the women were trained in handcraft, and the jewelry to make. And then at that point, we had the volunteer, and that's when I come in to say, volunteers have been a great component of our progress and our impact in this community. So we started the school, and the kids were just studying under a tree. And in this empowerment center, these were like kindergarten. And the need was there for school. 200 kids would come and sit there, and somebody would talk to them and start teaching them. And that hit me harder, that we needed the school at that point. So anyhow, that is where the birth of Hopeland School started. So we started out of the profits, the women sold product, we sold products, and we paid the women directly, and we were able to start our school in Kitola, the Hopeland School in Kitola. And then we went for an outreach in the next village. We had donated about 8 acres of land, and that's when we are able also to start the next campus, where we have Hopeland Junior School and Hopeland High School. Actually, I'm delighted this evening that Tiffany is attending there as well, because on the second campus, it was just a bush. And somebody said, if you can provide education for these children, we'll give you the land. So I came to the US, and Chris is there as well. And we started spreading the word and trying to make connection with people. Rotary clubs have been a great part of what we are doing. And we're trying to tell people, okay, we have started the schools, but these kids need sponsorship. Sponsorship is a very critical component of our pursuit to provide excellent education. So many people came up to sponsor the kids, and that's how we've been able to benefit a little over 1,000 children through the Hopeland schools, 2 campuses, 3 schools, a little over 1,000 children being educated. And it's amazing to see that these kids are excelling, and it gives me a lot of joy to see that despite the challenges here and there, but there is hope. Children have realized that within them, there's something bigger than what is outside. So I just wanted to bring a little bit of an introduction of what the Hopeland Schools is accomplishing, and to just extend my appreciation to all of you, our partners and sponsors and faithful supporters who have been a great part of our mission to educate the next generation of Ugandan leaders who are going to be the change agents of their own communities. So I wanted to give a little intro, and I'm looking forward to have a very interactive discussion with all of you. Thank you again.
Thank you, Valence, for providing some of that historical context for how the Hopeland schools came to fruition. I think it's really important for all of us to just be reminded of that wonderful work and really the grit that you had to be able to get through your personal story and make such a difference in Uganda. And also thank you to everyone who submitted questions in the RSVP. So we have a couple ahead of time. And I also want to welcome anyone to just unmute yourself and ask a question, or also send one in the chat. You can send it to the group or me directly. But the first question that came up was, how has the COVID-19 pandemic impacted the Hopeland schools and the local community?
Oh, thank you, Ashlee. Truthfully, the COVID-19 has been, has been one of the, I think, the worst tragedy that has happened in the last 10 years, where the whole world shut down, and it just took us by surprise, truthfully. And I think all of you guys, you'll bear witness that this took the whole world by surprise, and didn't spare Uganda as well. And for us, okay, growing up, we had wars and everything, but then this pandemic was something that took us by surprise. So anyhow, in many ways, this has affected, because for the first time, for about I think a month or 2 months, all cars, all businesses were closed down, and there was literally no movement of anything. What we are supposed to do we were asked to remain in our houses and just walk around because we're a community here, but then don't interact with people, don't do anything. The markets, everything. So in many ways, this has caused many people to lose their jobs. And because our economy is interdependent, somebody has a mother, an old mama or grandma, and he has 3 kids. These 3 kids are working for somebody in the city. And because they're working for this person in the city, they have to send the money to the grandmother to look after the kids and the children in the village. So that made everything complicated. And in turn, there was no food for the children. And in an average, you would say about 10 or 7 kids per family. And there was no food for the kids to eat. And everything was like misery. Out of that, there's been also difficult in the parents, and because what we do with our schools, there's a contribution. The parents, the guardians, you can realize we have a little over 1,200 kids in the schools, and they make a contribution to supplement the income for us to run the schools. And there has been a great difficulty for that. In turn, right now, when the schools have actually opened, I didn't say that, the schools opened last month on the 15th of October. And there's they're struggling to be able to pay school fees for the children to make them, attend the schools. And that is quite a complex bit of it. But then, so food, work, businesses have shuttered. There's a lot of domestic violence because everyone doesn't have the food on the table, and what happens is everyone is banging the tables, and there's chaos, and there's a lot of depression. People who have been depending on others feel there's anxiety. There's no anyone. People don't know what is next for them. So basically, on that range, those have been our key challenges here, and also the girls have been, they have been also affected, the teenagers, that type of thing. So COVID has been really something that has affected us in a lot of ways. So on those fronts, that has been the greatest effect, yes.
I'm really devastating to hear that, Valence. I can only compare it to the United States. And I love that you talked about how Uganda's government is interdependent, and how, we look here and we have so much government assistance for those who are hungry, for those who are not able to attend work. Like we have unemployment and we have a lot of other things that make us very privileged. So when we think about it in the context of Uganda and how big and how grand that need is, it really is heartbreaking. But I am happy to say that the Hopeland Schools has done, or Yofafo has done, a food program. So we have been donating about $1,000 a month. And can you talk a little bit about how that's impacted the local area and what we've provided? I know that we've so far helped about 1,600 Ugandans in the local area with maize.
A little over 1,600 people, yeah. Yeah, that, and I'm very thankful for the board in the US that thought about that. Sometimes the needs are so many and you don't know which one to, talk about. But I want to sincerely appreciate the US team that had that thoughtfulness to think about donating the food relief. I'll tell you, that has been a very successful program. And right now, we're spreading in the villages, and I'll tell you that the next village is on the wait. They know we are bringing the food. It's been like, oh, Yofafo is bringing us the food. Yofafo is bringing us. So it has been very effective and very helpful. For some of these kids, when we deliver the food, you notice that there was no food. Like the children were going to go hungry, and that is like a drop in an ocean, but still very, very helpful. So we've been able to distribute a little over 1,600 or 800 recent, close even to 2,000 now. Yes, about 1,800 now, or 1,900. So that has been very effective, and we can only hope that we are able to, progress with the program and benefit many people that are in real need of the food. So thank you again for that donation of the food program, and we look forward to, as resources are available, we can be able to reach out to many more families.
Yes, I will 100% give all kudos to our advisory board member, Steve Curry. He was at the table insisting that we start to distribute food in the local area of the Hopeland schools. So I'm glad that it is making an impact and that people have at least a little bit of relief there. The second question that was submitted was, how have the Hopeland schools transitioned their learning model during the pandemic? And have you incorporated any type of distance learning at all?
Yeah, so when school shut down, we said, what next? Because, children would be in the village, and some of them are 17, 18. There could be a lot of redundancy, and that could result in unexpected outcomes, in the sense that some of them would get pregnant, or just get into marriage and that type of thing. So we thought, how do we devise a model that will be able to track these children in the villages? And many thanks to our faithful teachers that have been able and very consistent to just follow through and be intentional, to see that we can track our children. So what we've done is we've been able to do materials, homework, you'd want to call it. We type work, and these children are able to, or their parents, they pick it, and then, or the children then take it and then bring it back. The teachers, the good beauty with our schools is that all our teachers are residents on site. So that creates a little bit of family that you are able to interact, like me as a director, to interact with the teachers at a more friendly in a friendly manner, and treat them as family, because they are residents on campus. We share the vision, talk to them, inspire them amidst challenges, and trying to cast the vision and just help them appreciate that they are okay getting a paycheck, but they are part of the mission and the vision that we are trying to pursue as Yofafo. So that has been well received. So we distribute materials to the children, and the teachers mark and then send back, and we are actually appreciated for our model at the district, because we are able to, we've done something good that the committee has appreciated, and the district did appreciate what we are trying to do, being intentional to our children. So we could never do this without the faithful commitment of our teachers. So we've done that, and it's been very successful.
Thank you for providing that update. I know that teachers are the unsung heroes of COVID-19, so we appreciate all the work that the teachers are doing there in the Hopeland schools. I know in a typical year, Yofafo loses some students because they move, like in a non-pandemic year. Students sometimes move out of the area with family members, or sometimes they move on to a different job, their family moves. So during this year, during the pandemic, do you know if you've lost any students? And if so, how many have you lost?
Right now, I would say that we've lost some, but then we are right now in terms of our track would be there are some kids that have left the village because of this pandemic. Of course, there may be very many, and it's not a very significant number as of now. Right now, we've had all our candidates come back, 45 in O level, like that is going to high school. We lost two who didn't come back because of family issues. So the number has not been very significant. Secondary, high school, we have 9, and we lost, I think, 3 or 4. Yeah, so it's not been a very significant number. And I didn't say that schools may resume on the 15th. We are hopeful that schools will be opened on the 20th, because we have general elections on 14th of January, and about 18th or 20th, we anticipate that schools will be open. So significantly, we've not had a significant drop of students this year. Most of them have returned. Yeah.
That's really good. I'm glad that the Hopeland schools are retaining the students. Do you know if COVID-19 has hit the Hopeland schools, and do you have a plan for an outbreak if it does happen when the students return?
Not as yet, but what we've done is, as a measure for schools to open, we're required to put in place SOPs, standard operating procedures in the schools. That meant that we had to put a lot of hand washing facilities on campus, and that we did, and sanitizers, that we did, and also masks. It is mandatory for all the kids to have masks in class. It's mandatory for all the teachers to have, masks, but also it is mandatory for students to be sprayed, like social distancing. So that we've highly put in place. And as of now, we've hit 1 month and very successful. No big challenges of COVID, and we are so grateful and thankful that nothing bad has happened yet. So that's good. Yeah.
Good. We'll continue to keep the Hopeland schools in our prayers, and we'll hope
absolutely.
That will continue. So this last question is going to be for Rudy and Valence. What are the biggest challenges Yofafo has faced this year, and how can sponsors and volunteers help?
I go first or Rudy goes first?
Whoever feels like they want to go first.
Go ahead, Valence. What's the biggest needs?
The needs will always be there, but truthfully, this year has had, as you can imagine, with COVID and schools locking down, there have been challenges, obviously, of operating the school without students in the school. So that has been, you are operating the school, but then you actually don't have students coming in and making a contribution or paying some bit of money. So in a lot of ways, that has been a lot of stretching, and that's why I said earlier on, many thanks to our teachers that have been intentional and committed to just follow through and be intentional and be part of our mission. Because for some of you that are watching, that we run Yofafo not for profit. We run the Hopeland schools not for profit. Hopeland schools is not a profit-making school. It's a service-oriented school. So teachers have families, they have dependents and everything. They want a paycheck. But one of my greatest strengths over the years has been to provide leadership that focuses on a commitment and a partnership to intentionally lead the team to a common goal, where you reach a point, you see the followers are beginning to align their hearts and their hands to the vision. That has been my greatest strength over the years, and I've survived 15 years with that, you know. So this year, truthfully, the operation of the schools has been our greatest challenges. Running the schools without any income, teachers coming. So that has been a challenge, but we know we'll overcome. Yeah. So yeah, maybe Rudy, you want to go in that?
Sure, Valence. I know, obviously, our organization here on the state side, I think one of the biggest things that we can really provide is that foundation from an operational standpoint for financial support. And that really comes through our sponsors. That's the beginning, and that is the whole of this. Steve Curry, especially with the Rotary connection, has been so helpful in some of the projects with computers, the solar, and Steve continues to work on those consistently. Steve Adams from the King City has been very supportive also with projects. So I think the biggest thing that we can do is to work very hard with our sponsors to encourage and keep sponsorship going. We have experienced very, very high retention rates from year to year, where we have far less than 5% over the last 3 years of sponsors leaving the program, while adding sponsors consistently every year. So that's a tremendous record. COVID has upended things here also, and financially, and just people's view of the future and their ability to support nonprofits. And so for us, I know we've sent out our sponsorship renewal packages. We've received about a half dozen checks back already, so we're off to a great start. The Kettlars got theirs back already. Thank you, Ann and Dave, for your continuous support. And it's really sponsors like them that are the foundation and help us help you with the foundation part, the financial part. Steve Curry, the food program, Steve back in late March, as this whole thing started, started raising that issue, and he kick-started it. And we've been able to support from a food standpoint. And while we were on the Zoom call, I went back and looked at one of Jovia's reports, and $1,000 buys 240 bags of 5 kilograms of maize flour. So that's 2,640 pounds of flour every month. And you multiply that up by the number of months, we're approaching 20,000 pounds of maize flour. So that's huge. I wish Karen Zappia was on the meeting this evening. Her company that she's an owner in, they just stepped up and they're covering the December payment in full, $1,000. So, it takes many hands to make light work. And so with all of our sponsors here, it really makes a difference. And I also want to recognize, Tiffany, you and your group from the East Coast. We're starting to build a stronger connection. You've been at this longer than we have. And, just love all the support and the prayers and encouragement that come from the East Coast. I know when Valence comes out every year, he tries to make it back to the East Coast and visit and see you. So that type of partnership, is just amazing. We've received checks or PayPal payments from folks in Australia, England. The connections, Valence, that you've made over the last 15 years, they've run far and they run deep. And so, from our standpoint, I think our biggest challenge is going to be able to retain our sponsors and to be able to maintain our financial foundation for Yofafo. But we're eternal optimists. That's why we're all here. We deal in optimism and hope. And, Chris started out, the meeting this evening with his experience. And, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to hear the impacts, because we're seeing those impacts here. The demand for the food banks has gone up 300%. We're involved in some other organizations, and the needs out there are huge. So I can only imagine the magnification there, in a developing country where, it's especially coming to a standstill. I mean, it is a huge shock. So we're optimistic in regards to our sponsorship. We're going to continue to push hard and strive. We're going to pray for you and encourage you and all the teachers. It's hard to push that desperation to the side and look for a sunny day and hope for what tomorrow's going to bring. But I think we're all very hopeful and optimistic that this is not going to last forever. That, come April, by that time, we're going to have some new tools and, let this run its course too. So Valence, to you and Jovia and Doreen and all the teachers, just our sincere thanks for the fortitude, the perseverance, and remaining positive and encouraging in what's otherwise a very, very challenging time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rudy. Thank you, Valence, for your time in the Q&A session. For the sake of time, we're going to move on to the next speaker. So our next speaker is Tiffany Christian. She's joining us today from Boone, North Carolina. She has been a volunteer and donor of Yofafo since 2008. That is actually really incredible. And she met Valence during one of her trips to Appalachian State and is actually taking many volunteers to Uganda with her. She considers Valence and his team her second family and actually sponsored the first high school graduation ceremony last year. So everyone, let's welcome Dr. Tiffany Christian.
Hi there. I'm just really excited to tell you my experience of the passion at the root of what goes on at Yofafo. And I'm going to tell you that initial story, not from a factual perspective, but what my brain was processing at the time. It was the fall of 2007, and I was teaching a cultural competence class in the social work curriculum. And I got this email that essentially said, there's this guy from Africa who runs this nonprofit that wants to talk to classes. And I thought it was a good idea for my students to hear from him. Our area is not very diverse, so to have someone to come in would be good for them. So Valence came in and spoke to my class, and when he left, they were so on fire because of his passion that they begged me to figure out how to take the trip to visit him in Uganda. They loved what he was doing and they wanted to be a part of it. I had never done anything like that in terms of an international student trip. This was October of 2007. May of 2008, I got off the plane with 10 students in tow. my first time on the continent to visit Valence and to figure out what was going on in Yofafo and how we could help. So from that point, 7 consecutive years, I took groups of students. And oh my gosh, the school, to look at it now makes me want to cry with just how amazing it is, the growth since 2008. It's unreal. When we got there, I guess it was maybe the 5th year in, and there was finally the well. We all wanted to cry. We're like, oh my gosh, there's a well. What are we going to do? So just to see what's going on and to see the growth. But I think what's most impressive is just to know that when people donate, when people give, it is going to build that community. It is going to the women. It is going to the children. There's not this ridiculous amount of overhead. Valence isn't living lavishly, but everything really is going to benefit the women and children in those communities. And to see the impact of that, and to see the kids grow up and have ambition, to see women who were very shy and reserved become community leaders over time. It's just an incredible thing to be a part of. And you want to tell other people about it and want to encourage them, because it doesn't take much. It takes a desire, it takes a commitment, but it does not take an incredible amount financially to have that level of impact. There's often this debate about, should I go, should I send the money? I really believe that everybody should have someone in their circle that's gone. You need to see it. Somebody that you trust needs to have seen what's going on. But everybody doesn't need to go, but everybody can help. My favorite story is my 2 older children have gone. My daughter was 11, and she raised money for pigs, for the women to have in Kotola. And when she went back on her second trip when she was 14, it was our 5th year of coming, and we were celebrating. And a lady stood up and said, I received a pig, and I was able to put my daughter through high school with this. And she got to meet my daughter, who was the person who provided that pig. And so it was an amazing thing. The woman was amazing. A child had been able to impact her life like that. And at the same time, my daughter was amazed that she was able to have that kind of impact on someone's life. And so there are countless stories. And in the interest of time, I'll wrap up with something that was said during that same celebration. When you wonder if what you do matters, if it has an impact, if it stays with people. Rossi, one of the teachers at the time, said, when we look at this building, because we just finished working on the school, when we look at this building, we know that God loves us because he sent you here to help us. Now, that isn't concrete confirmation that what you do sticks with people and has meaning. I don't know what is. So I just want to encourage you to share it with your family and friends, encourage them to be involved. There's nothing more rewarding than knowing that you are making a difference in generations of people's lives.
Thank you, Dr. Tiffany Christian. Every time I hear your story, it's so powerful. I love hearing your origin story. Next up, we have Jan Northington. She joins us from Los Osos, California. She has been a sponsor of Yofafo since 2014. She shares that Yofafo actually reached out to her when they discovered Days for Girls and knew their products would be meeting a need for the girls and women of Yofafo. So ever since 14, she sends a suitcase filled with menstrual hygiene products back to the girls in Hopeland schools, including her own sponsored child, Esther Maribi. So Jan, we cannot wait to hear about the impact that you've made in the lives of the women and girls in Uganda.
Thank you so much. It's been such an honor to be a part of Hopeland Schools and to meet Valence and his family. I want to share some of the photos with you that hopefully you can see there. Thanks to Ashlee. As you heard, initially Valence found me. Well, Rudy and Valence found me. I was involved with a group called Days for Girls that provides feminine hygiene products for girls at school. So Valence realized this was going to be something that could really help his students stay in school and be successful. In 2018, I was able to take a team 15 ladies with me with Days for Girls products, as well as, and here are the students greeting us coming into Hopeland School. You saw the sign in the classroom. We took a group of 15 ladies. I was also involved with a solar group, and we were able to put solar panels on the Women's Empowerment Center. The kids were thrilled, as you can see. Group photo there. Successful time. And we also brought hundreds of kits of Days for Girls. We, next slide there. We had lunch first before we did our teaching. Same thing as those kids had. The mamas made a meal, beautiful meal for us. And here is Valence, his wife, Doreen, and little girl, Abigail. Next. Before we did our teaching, we got to go outside and see the jungle gym. So this is creativity at its best, jumping and laughing and playing and singing. And we got to, next slide, we got to play in the play yard. And they, of course, wanted to see my white Mzungu skin. That's the biggest deal. But just such a joy to be with these kids and sing songs and play. Next. We always do a big teaching regarding Days for Girls, how the girls' bodies work, and provide them with a kit, which was so wonderful, having a group of ladies that could be more individual in teaching each of the children after we had presented our original teaching. So that was a big plus. In the next few slides, you'll see all of the kids with their kits and so proud and happy to have received them. Always just such a joy. My sponsored child here is Esther. And so I got the wonderful delight, having supported her for about 4 years before I was there in 18, and to meet her and her mom. And this is Valence's daughter. But that was just a treat. And thanks to Chris Byrne's son, who made this film for us. We're going to forward on to 1.50, Ashlee there. And you'll see the impact that these girls will let you know what an impact the Days for Girls products have meant to them. And I thank all the team that been able to take suitcases over the years, as they have, every time they go, we try to provide them 50 to 100 kits, as well as trying to teach the women how to make these kits themselves. And so it's been a really positive experience all the way around.
I'm Junior School Chitola, and I'm really glad to meet you. Those kits have been very useful because the first time the school didn't have some, and people could come and they could get ashamed, even the young children, because they could just, a young child to see you with blood on your uniform, it could be very bad and embarrassing. So we thank you for everything. And as Madam has said, if you provide more, we shall be very glad, because the school will stop to suffer with these children. We really want to thank you for sending us those kits, because the day they came, at least now we are seeing there is a change. They can keep you safe, and no one can know that this and this has gone in period, because they are those parts they wouldn't use. Maybe when they use the clothes you put, maybe moving or playing like netball, soccer, then it falls down there. And you see that you get ashamed. But the day you send those kids, at least they can keep us safe.
Very good question. Should you wear this every day? When do we wear this? When we have menstruation, during menstruation, yes. And please remember, this goes into here. It is like a pocket, okay? It is like a pocket. It goes in here and in here, okay? Can I, if I just use this and it's dirty, can I use it again? No, what must I do first? Wash it. What do I need to wash it with? Soap and water. Good. What kind of water? Clean, hot water. Very good. Clean, hot water. Yes. Because this part of our body is special.
Well, that's what we do, and how we've been able to support Hopeland schools over the years, and hope to continue to do so when people can come. People can go over again and take suitcases.
Yes, thank you, Jan, for all that you do. And your partnership with Yofafo is really pivotal to the health and well-being of the girls. Just the academic research alone says that girls who have access to menstrual hygiene are less likely to drop out of school and less likely to enter into poverty. So you are really transforming the lives of those women, those young girls who will become mothers and have children, and then their children will become educated. So this is like generational wealth that we're sharing here. So, yes. So our next speaker is Steve Curry of rural Oro Grande. He became involved with Yofafo about 9 to 10 years ago through a fellow Rotarian. They collectively worked to build a water well at the Catula School, and we are happy to report that it's still in use today. Steve has spearheaded so many initiatives. I can't even tell you, I couldn't even list them all, but some of them are Yofafo Food Program, Computer Lab, Solar Power in the Hopeland Schools. He also sponsors 8 children, including Mbaya Aziz, who is featured on the front of this sponsorship brochure. So Steve, take it away.
Hi, everybody. So first of all, thanks for everybody for coming. I know we're kind of pressed for time. My job here was supposed to be to talk about scholarships and sponsorships, and everyone here is a sponsor and everyone understands the program. So I thought maybe I could just like mention the first time that I did meet Valence was Steve Adams, who was the president of the Rotary Club. I was the international service director. I've been that for about 30 years. After I was president in 89-90 for Pismo Beach Rotary, I became international service, and we've written grants and done projects all over the world. Steve came to me and said he had this guy from Uganda and that maybe we could do a project. He knew Deanna from church, and so he introduced us. We met across the street from City Hall, and Valence gave me the pitch. My wife was there, Linda. And he said, well, he got on the plane, and his big dream for this trip was to get a well. And so we talked about it for about a half hour. And I said, well, how much does this well cost? He said, well, $5,000. So I told him, I said, okay, we'll do the well. And it was, and he was like shocked that we decided that quick. And we went ahead and did the well. We came back a couple of years, 3 years later, we did solar panels for the school in Naja, solar panels, computers, and water catchment. I went there and visited that project. I got to see the well. I got to see everything. While I was there, I heard about the North Carolina group over and over, and that building they built, and this building they built, and all the people they brought. And I thought, man, those guys are great. And I see now that I met Tiffany a couple of days ago, and I met her again tonight. I see why that they were so great and what they've done. I would have loved to have had her as my teacher when I was in school. But so this has been really a project of love. I've gone now 3 times. I tell you that the money that you spend on sponsorships is definitely well used, and it is being spent wisely. So I don't want to go on too much because we all know what's going on. So just let me say that if you can sponsor another child, if you already sponsor one, try to sponsor another. The thing that we can do as a group, since we all are doing all we can now, is try to pull new people into the program. So if you can pull somebody into the program, that would be great. Just on a side note, this food that you see here that they're eating is beans, and it is the maize flour. So this is what we gave to them. It's a staple there. It's sort of a, I don't know, porridge. But so that's what they're eating. This is, again, one of their homes. And so if you can try to get other people to join us, that would be great. And that's pretty much all I got, Ashlee.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate your time. I promise we have only about 4 more minutes. We have one last video we'd love to show everyone. It just highlights what the sponsorships are about and really what what the experience looks like when Valence is able to visit us in the United States.
I'm going to the Rotary Club of Kissimmee Beach here in California. I'll be talking about meeting the sponsors that are sponsoring some of our children at the Hopeland schools. The ocean is nice.
Yeah, it's beautiful here.
It's a nice view. I'm Valence, Rutaisire, the founder and director of Yofafo with Focus Africa Foundation, but also the director of the Hopeland schools that this very year will have our seniors graduate to go to university. 15 of them, the very first kids we started with. So it's been an amazing journey to see some of these kids since they were young, growing and now going into university next year. When the schools grow, comes with a lot of challenges. More children will need sponsors, and that has been one of our greatest support system, because when you sponsor a kid, you help us run the schools.
Valence knows these kids, so he might be able to give you some
Exactly, that's why I'm here. Yeah, young kid, yeah, exactly.
Their favorite subject is science. This tells a little bit better. You'll also get, you'll get a newsletter. So every month or so, you'll get an email with, what's going on in the schools and all that. Over 1,000 students at his 3 schools and 75 teachers. So this isn't some small thing. This is a big thing. Part of what we're going around doing is trying to get sponsors. $365 to be a sponsor. That's brochures on your table. Our club sponsors 2 students together. The whole club, we have about 17 students sponsored out of this group. Right now, I have 5 students that we sponsor. We sponsor Linda and I 8 students. 5 of them are graduating. They're in the graduating class. This is the first graduating class for the Copeland schools. And at first I went and it was amazing. And it changed my life to see what was going on there. But as I've gone back, it's still amazing, but now these people are my friends. And these students are like, my nephews and nieces. And I feel like, what we're doing to help them is really going to change their lives. They tell us it's changing their lives.
Most of the children in the community, they get a lot of attention in schools like ours that are private, because there's commitment, there's zeal, there's interest. And right now, our school, one of our campuses, almost 500 children because of that commitment, that wake-up call on the community to know that with education, there's a lot of possibilities, and it's not what you see outside, it's what is inside. So the attitudes have begun to change as a result of our engagement with these communities to bring education.
27 Rotarians signed up to be sponsors for kids in the last 3 days because they see the value of the program. They see the impact we're having on these kids, and it is an emotional, attachment, and it's an emotional result. So the impact's been great. We love what we're doing, and I'm going to just keep doing it.
Well, thank you everyone for attending. I'll let Dr. Byrne say his closing.
There we go. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I was smiling the whole time. That's just so awesome. Wow, Valence, what a team you've surrounded yourself with and you've helped create. The vision and the mission is incredible. It's touched many, many people's lives. I really reflect outside of just even the pandemic that we're all experiencing. It's just globally a very polarized time. There's so many thoughts and there's so many divisions in our world, especially in our country. The thing that I find unique about Yofafo is that there is a singular call to duty and action, and every US dollar that is spent in Uganda is absolutely, truly impactful. There's so many opportunities here in the States and elsewhere to give and be involved. And we're always faced with how are we going to be involved in our communities? This is our unique direction. Tiffany nailed it. Ultimately, you know, if you've got your core group of people and one of you takes the trip, it seals the deal. It creates a great sense of organicness. And Rudy mentioned on the low recidivism or loss of sponsors, and the reason is because it's so organic. It's never been a salesy experience. It's been just organic. Here is an opportunity to be involved in the lives of others. I think the important thing too is really even talking about the overhead. For this organization absorbs essentially all costs. So all administrative costs on the US side are absorbed by the organization. So sponsorship dollars or any dollar spent is in fact directly going to the program. And it is truly impactful. Tiffany's seen it, Rudy's seen it. Rudy's been very involved in building on the capital side, rooms and empowerment centers. Steve, incredible commitment. Grant writing is phenomenal. It's exciting. So thank you all for being here tonight, taking a good chunk of your time. We can't wait to see Valence in a safe world, hopefully this next year, to touch and say hi and hug. And in the meantime, this has been a great experience. And Ashlee, thank you so much for really setting the wheels in motion with this. Thank you all.
Yes, thank you. And we'd like to send everyone a mask from Uganda as a token of gratitude. So please look in the mail. We'll be sending you one soon.
Good night, guys.
Thank you all.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good
Take care,
seeing you.
Valence.
Say hello to the
Bye.
family.